I absolutely love the fact that the manga decided to release a cover page, a color spread specifically, honoring Film Red long after it originally came out in Japan, almost as though Oda was just like, oh, it's coming out in the US too? Here you go. Now, would I have preferred it a little bit more had we had a bit of a simultaneous release? Yeah, but I mean, Dragon Ball Superheroes came out months later too, so what can you do? Like, chapter 1055 had the poster, and now 1065 has the promotional spread. But talking about the movie in general, it was a fantastic movie. One of the better ones. Now, I will say, when it comes to the ones that Oda has been personally involved with, my top will always be Film Z, just because Zed was such a magnificently realized character. It was fun. I love the stuff with Aokiji. That was a great movie, and is one of my favorite One Piece movies of all time. Strong World usually comes in at a close second, just because I loved the stuff with Nami, the fights, the battle against Shiki. A lot of the Straw Hats had a lot of time to shine, specifically the ones who had involvement with the East Blue and Chopper. Great stuff. And then kind of fighting for last place is Stampede and Film Gold. I love Stampede just because I love the stuff with the Worst Generation. That moment where they're all taking on Douglas Bullet, amazing. I love all the Easter eggs, but there's just so much going on in that movie, which is both a great point and a bit of a detriment, because they're just shoving in characters left, right, and center, which I both loved, but I'm also just like, man, this movie got too much going on. And with Film Gold, I loved a lot of the action. It's just that I always hated that the backstory of Guild Tesoro was not told directly in the story, because once you know his backstory, it's just like, oh wow, this is incredible. Would have been great had you actually said it in the actual movie. Like, Guild Tesoro, in my opinion, is a better villain than Douglas Bullet, because guy who just wants to fight is not as interesting to me as dude who was wronged in the past, was enslaved, and essentially is trying to make something of himself. There's a lot of nuance to his character that was really just not even presented properly. It was just glossed over. Douglas Bullet was cool, just as a wall for Luffy to surpass, much like Kaido, but, former member of the Roger Pirates, it's just like, oh, and this is kind of all he amounted to? Dang. Feels like he should have just been presented as a rival of Roger, much like Sheik. But when it comes to this movie, the story of Uta is a fascinating one, but it's also so absolutely tragic. And I think that's also why I love this color spread too, because our first glimpse of Uta was essentially this, but just in black and white, and you couldn't really tell the details. You didn't see her crying, you just saw her singing very powerfully, and you didn't have the full-on black wings. Her wings were a little bit smaller, and Oda presented that he wanted to have the villain of this movie be a female one, just because he hadn't done that. It was always old dudes from the bygone era, dudes whose time have passed. And to also have it be someone who has such a deep connection with Shanks was also fascinating. This was definitely going to be the movie that drew everyone in. Not to mention also having Oda implement Uta in such a way that she is kind of ingrained, as she was there when Shanks first met Luffy. And we even had a chapter where her silhouette is seen. So much like Shiki, she is loose canon to the story. And it was especially great because I saw the anime basically tell her story of how she and Shanks met Luffy, how she became friends with Luffy going forward, all that good stuff. And a very nice, precocious kind of kid. But it's also suggested that she might have had her devil fruit ability even when she was young. They never really tell you how she has her ability of the Uta Uta no Mi, or the Song Song fruit. But it's an ability that allows her to transport people to kind of this world of dreams through her voice, where she can pretty much do anything. So it's like a super special kind of concert. And it's hinted at that she had this power way back when, because every time she sang, everybody kind of dozed off and fell asleep. And through the course of the movie, you find out that Shanks had taken her to the island of ᚤᚤᚉᚖ, which is an island of musicians, because Shanks wanted her to pursue her want to be a musician, to be a great singer, but she wanted to travel with Shanks. She enjoyed being a part of the red-haired pirates. And it's always kind of been hard to tell. I'm going into deep spoilers here, but apparently something locked away called Tot Musica. Either it is an actual demon lord, or it is a power from a previous user of the ᚘᚗᚖᚗ that was sealed away. But singing the song can unleash this destructive demonic entity upon the land that will just lay waste to wherever it's unleashed. And the leader of the island of ᚤᚤᚉᚖ, Gordon, he wanted ᚘᚗᚗ to sing the piece before she left because he had found it. And that ended up just laying waste to ᚤᚤᚉᚖ. Only the leader, Gordon, survived. The red-haired pirates needed to take the monstrous entity down. But, when all was said and done, Shanks tells Gordon, tell the people, tell ᚘᚗᚗ that the red-haired pirates did this. We destroyed ᚤᚤᚉᚖ and looted the place, took its treasure, and peaced out. Because he didn't want to lay that destruction at ᚘᚗᚗ's feet. So they left her behind with this lie, and she ends up growing up kind of hating the red-haired pirates. But Gordon had made a promise to Shanks to help ᚘᚗᚗ become the greatest musician of all time. She spends basically all of the rest of her life on ᚤᚤᚉᚖ, but she finds a way to get her songs out to people. She becomes this worldwide phenomenon, but she also gets messages from people around the world who talk about their strife at the hands of pirates, all this suffering that they've been through. So ᚘᚗᚗ comes up with this radical plan to hold this massive concert, and she'll use her abilities to lock everyone inside the world of dreams, or inside their ᚘᚗᚗ world, her song world. Well, they'll be happy forever, but she plans on ending her life using this special drug, this wake shrooms, that'll keep her awake for a long time, to be able to broadcast her songs to as many places as possible, bring as many people as she can into this world of dreams, or they'll be happy for all of eternity. And because of the drugs, she'll eventually die from exhaustion, and everyone will be trapped in this dreamlike world. It's such a dark premise, especially when you find out that ᚘᚗᚗ actually found recorded proof of what she had done. So as it turns out, she knew she was the cause of the death of everyone on ᚤᚤᚉᚖ, and her doing this was also a way of atoning. She thought she was doing something great. We also find out that the shrooms kind of alter the mind and stuff like that, which feels like a bit of an out for what she was doing. But I mean, she had to have come up with this plan before she started taking these shrooms, man. So essentially she came up with a mass suicide plot, which is really depressing. It is super depressing from my point of view, because the most depressing One Piece movies were film 6, I think that was the ᚘᚗᚖᚗ movie, and film Z. But with the ᚘᚗᚗᚗ movie, it was depressing in the fact of it just had this overall tone. It really went for the creepy vibe as a whole. But with film Z, that was more of a, how do I say this, a kind of manly sadness, because Z, he went out like such a boss. He went out fighting. Yeah, his ideals were wrong as shit, but this was just a man who was fed up and wanted things to change, and went about it in all the wrong ways, and didn't run from what he did ultimately. He just kind of took everything on the chin, and I have this weird respect for it ultimately. But for this is just really sad and depressing. This is this girl who had so much joy and happiness, who ended up accidentally doing something terrible, tried to make up for it by doing something even more terrible. And things get so much more complicated when Luffy people were planning on kidnapping her. We have the Big Mom family with Oven and Brûlé coming in to kidnap her. Some pirates called the Jellyfish Pirates trying to kidnap her because of her abilities and what people think or know that she can do. And when Luffy greets Uta and basically outs to the entire audience that she's Shanks' daughter, like, everybody is going after her. Even the government, CP0 were investigating her with Blueno and Khalifa, who were shown are members of CP0 apparently. Like, she is mass targeted by a lot of people for her abilities and for the havoc she's about to unleash, especially when a celestial dragon gets involved in all of it. Specifically, you know the one that Luffy decked into No Tomorrow. So Uta's life going forward was never going to be a good one, but it's really depressing. And the only way for everyone to break free, because the Straw Hats are trapped in Udo's world as well, along with Oven, Brûlé, Kobe, and Humepa, who are investigating, along with Blueno, Law, Beppo. Oddly enough, Bartolomeo is there as well, but he doesn't play as much of a big role as you would hope. Honestly, a lot of characters play very minor roles in this as a whole, which to a certain degree makes sense. This is Uta, Luffy, and Shanks' story primarily, with Luffy trying his best to convince Uta from within her Uta world, and even though she thinks Shanks has abandoned her, Shanks shows up to help Uta out and protect her from the world government, who have basically said, to hell with the civilians, take this woman down. And so we get to actually see the red-haired pirates in action, Shanks just showing off how Chad he really is, with a few moments here and there. And when Tot Musica is unleashed, they essentially have to coordinate attacks, hitting it at the same time from in the dream world and in the real world in order to be able to break free and actually stop the demonic entity. So we get some pretty cool moments of interesting moment between Usopp and his dad, who use their observation haki to kind of communicate with each other and coordinate the attacks, which is really cool. Usopp threw a little bit of shade to Uta about his dad, which was an interesting little moment that wasn't given as much time to really grow. Kobe has some great moments because he actually coordinates the Straw Hats and the effort to try to escape from Uta's world, and gets with the people who have transportation abilities, like Blueno, because of his door ability. He's able to get people around, which is the most of the reason why he's even in this movie. And Brûlé too, who has this interesting moment with Nami, who convinces her to help in order for Brûlé to see Katakuri again. Katakuri comes in and helps out the red-haired pirates because he wants to help save his family. Katakuri is honestly just kind of there because he's Katakuri and he's popular. Law is only kind of there because he's popular. Law really does not do much in this movie. Beppo's essentially just there to look cute. We have the Sunny get turned into a chibi form because I guess it also has a mind of its own that's brought into Uta's world. And Blueno also gets chibified as well. That was strange. We get some cool action scenes with the red-haired pirates and the Straw Hat pirates attacking from the real world and the dream world against Tot Musica. Oven has a few moments here and there. Honestly, it's weird. It's kind of bizarre how much attention Oven actually kind of gets, but he was one of the more active members of the Big Mom Pirates, so to a certain degree that makes a lot of sense. Helmeppo is just there because Kobe is there. Kobe gets a lot of time to shine in this. Like, Kobe is up there in terms of attention, but the Straw Hats just do a few things here and there. A lot of the Straw Hats are really just underutilized here, but they managed to defeat Tot Musica, keep it from causing any kind of destruction. But Uta, instead of taking the antidote that would cure her, decides that no, she doesn't. The antidote would put her to sleep and help her rest off and hopefully not die. But she brushes it off, says she has has to undo the spell in order to awaken everyone. Why she just gonna do that maybe later after she gets some rest is anyone's guess, but I think it's just to atone for what she was trying to do. So she sings one final song. Also, the songs in this movie are incredible. I was caught up in the plot, I didn't get to say that, but the songs are incredible. But that I'm biased. I love musicals, so of course I would say that. But the music in this is incredible, it's great, it makes sense because of the nature of Uta's abilities, so there you go. But she sings one final song to free everyone from the dream world, and apparently she dies at the end. You're not really shown her dying, but later we see with the Straw Hats are sailing away. She has, in the dream world, one final conversation with Luffy, who had been trying his best in order to help her, wake up from what she was doing. We also get a preview of Gear 5th in this, which is such a big spoiler for anyone who hasn't seen it in the anime or anything like that. You'll be wondering, what the heck was that when you see it? Such a weird choice. But they have one final conversation. Luffy and the others wake up on the boat, probably dropped off by the red-haired pirate so they wouldn't be caught by the Marines. And the last thing we see is, from a distance, Luffy sees the red-haired pirates crying over what looks to be a casket holding Uta, who maybe died? I'm pretty sure he died, but at the same time, it's hard to tell. Maybe she's just in a coma. But for me, the movie ends on that note with us next seeing, with the credits showing all the people that the Straw Hats know and care about, friends, family, yada yada, listening to Uta's music, and kind of gives off the vibe of even if Uta is gone, and even though she tried to do something kind of really shitty, her music will live on and be the inspiration for people to go forward. It'll bring happiness through that. It's just, man, what a kind of downer of a movie. I'm sorry. I enjoyed the movie, but it is such a downer coming out of it to such a degree because there's no walking back anything that Uta did. It feels like the people of Elegia were still wiped out. She still almost killed lots of her fans. She essentially, if she did die, she killed herself. Dang, man. And our one movie with Shanks in it essentially had him losing his daughter, who ultimately wasn't actually his daughter. She found her in a treasure chest after they looted one place, which, funny enough, in canon is how Roger and Rayleigh found Shanks, in a treasure chest, which raises a whole bunch of questions. But that's the end of the movie, and I don't know. It's so somber to me, which is kind of why Oda is so hesitant to kill off most characters when it comes to a lot of stories, even though a lot of fans kind of want that, Oda to be a little bit more decisive with how he does certain things. But there is a somber mood and tone that it puts towards things. And with this, I can kind of understand why he doesn't do it that often, because hey man, it is a bummer. This is some dark subject matter, some depressing subject matter. And it kind of feels weird with all the promotional stuff that we have for Uta, and even that little, if you've seen it, there's an animation of Uta giving a Halloween greeting that has Perona in it and stuff, which, I don't know, just feels weird with the nature of how things end for Uta. But who knows, maybe Uta will be introduced in the story proper and she'll have a completely different story going forward, because I loved her design, I loved her style, especially with the big poofy jacket. I kind of wish she wore that a little bit more, but once we get into more somber territory, it makes a lot of sense. Uta's so determined to have her fans live, no killing, no dying. When one is harmed in a dream, she tries to prevent it and heal them and help them. When one is shot in real life, because she can actually control the sleeping people like zombies, and the Marines just try to shoot them because they're just to get them out of the way. And Uta is just so despondent when one of them gets shot. just some really depressing stuff. We also get a hint of the nature of Shanks' family lineage, something called the Figureland family, which isn't elaborated on in the actual movie. I mean, we might have it elaborated on sometime in the future, but it's really hard to say. But overall, a great movie. Really kind of one of the top ones in my opinion. If I had to, gun to my head, put a rating, I'd say I still put ᚘᚉ at the top, then second Strong World, and then probably this. But that's the thing, a lot of the ones that Oda has worked on, they're all great movies in their own right. I love them all. It's just like, hey, choose your favorite children out of these 5. It's just like, okay, if I have to, but I mean, I still love them. How dare you make me make a choice like this? There were even some stories drawn by Oda, these one-page special mangas, that actually tell the story of how Uta came up with some of the songs in the movie. The song New Genesis coming from when she was listening to people's plight being terrorized by pirates, the world's continuation, thinking of Shanks and the red hair pirates, and even Where the Wind Blows being a story she thinks of being very similar to a song that the red hair pirates would use in order to help make her stop crying when she was little, that they had overheard from a woman, you know, trying to sing her own child to sleep. Actually, very sweet little thing. Interestingly enough, my favorite song out of the bunch is probably Tot Musica, which is just such a surreal song. But yeah, a great movie. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. What did you think of the movie? Did you enjoy it? Did you kind of feel like me that the ending was very melancholic ultimately, considering what happens? And do you feel like that was ultimately the way to go? Are you happy that it ended the way it did? Or would you have preferred it to end a different way? I'm interested to hear from you. So again, let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Also remember to like, subscribe, and hit the bell for notifications so you don't miss out on the next video. But until then, I've been Duuz-Diz-Din and hope to see you in the next video. Until then, bye-bye.